Hi everyone. You're welcome. I want to give like five minutes for others to join before I begin. Hi Faith. Hi Salam. Hi Patricia. Hi Victoria. Please can you hear me? I want to be sure that I'm audible. Hi everyone. Okay, I think we can start now. You're welcome. Um, yeah, I wasn't speaking then, but can you hear me now, Patricia? Hi, Michael. Hi, Samuel. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. So, um, I'll share my screen in a second. Share. So, okay, okay, yeah. So, if you have any questions, like during the um class, you could ask them in the comment section and I'll get to them because I can see all your comments. So the class can be engaging and interactive. All right, so I'm going to start now as because we've gone past 10 minutes already. I wouldn't want to keep you here for long. So yeah. So basically this is like the second class I would be hosting. Last one was just an introduction and I was pretty busy with work, so I took a pause. And I think I'm sure you got my newsletter, so I'm hoping we'll be able to do like bi-weekly sessions. So I think I can work around that. So yeah, so this is the second session we'll be having. And this session is basically on exploring the types and structure of technical writing and documentation engineering. First session, this session one, as you can see on my slide. If you can see my slide, please just indicate in the comment section so I can go ahead. Okay, can you all see my slide? I'm sharing like a screen showing exploring the types and structure of technical writing and documentation engineering. Okay, cool. Nice. Right. So this is basically what we'll be talking about today, and it's quite lengthy. So there's going to be like a break session in between. In between each session, there will be a break so that we can like go out, touch grass, drink water, refresh, so we won't be stressed out, right? So next slide. Okay. So what is tech writing? I already covered an introduction to tech writing in my last session in my last class, so I'll just do like a quick recap on what it is. So basically technical writing is all about creating clear, concise. Also, before I begin, I would want to know how many persons are hearing about technical writing for the first time or are being introduced to technical writing for the first time. So if this is the first time you're hearing about technical writing, you can just send like a thumbs up or something or an emoji on the comment section so I know what I'm dealing with. If this is the first time you're hearing about technical writing, or if this is the first time you're learning about technical writing, if you do not know what technical writing is at all, so just let me know in the comment section so that I can know my target audience for today. Okay. I don't know if there's a network lag, but I can't see. I'm looking at the comment section, but I can't really see any updates yet. So I'm assuming this everyone has okay. So if this is not your first time, then send an emoji. If this is not your first time, send an emoji. So if you already know what technical writing is, send an emoji. Okay, okay. All right. Because I'm just going to run through the recap then, since most persons here today are not new to technical writing. So this is just a recap. So basically, technical writing is all about creating clear, concise, and accurate information that explains technical concepts or products. And it is used in a wide range of fields from software development to engineering to writing user manuals for your everyday appliances. So that's like a simple definition of technical writing. And in the last class I held, I talked about how technical writing acts like a bridge, basically how it takes complicated or complex technical stuff and explains it clearly for people who need to understand it, basically. Right. So, for instance, let's say you bought a new furniture set and it comes with an instruction manual, and that instruction manual is just it basically has a step of like step by step instructions for you to set up the furniture, right? So, but in a situation whereby the instruction manual is missing crucial steps or is full of technical jargon, it would give you like a tough time, right? Wouldn't it would give you like a tough time. So basically, technical writing comes in such situations to ensure that the instructions are easy to follow, regardless of the technical background of the user. So the last class I had kind of laid a foundation of what technical writing is and why it matters. So in this session, I'm going to go like a bit deeper into discussing the different types of technical writing. I'll explain how you can identify the purpose and target audience for each type. I would also discuss how you can structure your technical documents so users can easily understand in the information you write or you share quickly and easily. So I'm going to move on to the next slide now. So the next slide is basically on the types of, that's a repetition, sorry, correct it for me. Types of technical writing. So now that we have like refreshed our memory on technical writing, we can now discuss its various types. So for instance, let's say you have like a toolbox that is filled with different tools, and each of these tools are suited for a specific job. So in technical writing, let's call these tools in quotes the different document formats that are used to communicate technical information, right? So also wanted to mention that if you get confused at any point, you can also like call my attention to it, and I can go back and like explain. If you don't, if it's not like a direct question, it's something I just said that's not really clear, you can go back. I can go back and explain. So you can just let me know in the comment section. So yeah, so I said that basically these tools that I'm using in this example, let's say they stand for the different document formats that are used to communicate technical information. So on my screen you can see or on your screen you can see like the different some types. These are like categories of the types of technical writing. There are more, but these are like the most common ones. So I just listed them out as like categories. So the first one is the instructional content. So under the instructional content, we have types that include tutorials and how-to guides and training materials. I'm going to explain what each of them entail. So for tutorials and how-to guides, there are step-by-step guides that walk users through a specific process or a specific task, and they are usually done written in a clear and concise format. I explain what clarity and what conciseness means in my last class, right? So I'm not going to go through that again. So basically, how to guides or tutorials, I put them together side by side because they're like intertwined. You might see a tutorial that's a how to guide and see a how to guide as a tutorial, basically. So they are basically step-by-step guides that walk users through a specific process or a specific task that are usually in a clear and concise format with, and they usually include things like what we call visuals in technical writing. So visuals represent screenshots. I talked about that in the last class. So it represents screenshots, illustrations, diagrams, images, and all that. So like that's for tutorials and how to guide. So where can you see this kind of documents being used? They can be used for anything from software applications to building projects. So for instance, let's say a company this let's say a company, for instance, they build like a new product or they build like a new application. Let's just say a new product, right? A new developer or new software product. And then you come in as technical writer to write like a step-by-step guide on how the company or the product users can, or their targeted users, yeah, let me put it like that, on how the company's targeted users can use this product or can run the application or can run the software, stuff like that. So that's where tutorials and how to guides come in handy. So I'm going to also share examples with you guys in the comment section for each of these types of technical writing, so that I won't just talking and talking and talking. So you can see like real life examples of what I'm talking about. I'm going to share like a link to a sample tutorial, or a sample sample tutorial basically. So let me quickly get this link and share it to you in the comment section. Give me a moment so I can get the link. All right. Sorry, I just saw a question in the comment section. I'll attend to that after this session so that I don't digress. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the link I just shared now is like an example of a tutorial. An example of a tutorial is it's basically an online tutorial for let me know if that link is working, please. It's basically an online tutorial for building a simple to-do list app with Python. So it consists of step-by-step guides that basically guide the readers through a process of building a basic to-do list application using Python programming language, and includes the visuals I was talking about, in like code snippets and all that. Also includes like explanations and troubleshooting tips. It's not okay. Um, Let me give me a second. Let me open the link this time around so that I could share it very well. Okay. All right. So okay, I just shared the link now. It should work now, I think. It should work. I think it should work now. Like I just shared the link, so I think it should work now. Is this okay? Yeah, cool. So another example of a how-to guide is let me share this one with you. I'm going to share this one with you because it's slightly different. Um it's slightly different from the other one I shared. The other one I just shared with you is an article, right? I'm going to share this one with you because it's slightly different. Because when people hear about technical writing, the first thing that comes to their mind is writing articles, right? So this is like a different format of how to guides on Code Academy. If you're a developer, you've probably heard about codeacademy.com. Okay. So I just shared the second link. So basically, that link, the second link I shared with you is an interactive tutorial from Code Academy that guides their users or readers or viewers or whatever on how to build a website or build their first website. And if you check out the link I just shared with you, you could actually please you can go ahead and check out the link so that we can be so that the class can be interactive. So, like, if you check out the link, you notice that it's arranged. You notice the format in which it's arranged. It's actually the technical writer that does that. It's actually the technical writer. So, I don't know if you heard about educative.io. Educative.io is a platform that hires technical writers to write tutorials for them and they pay them like in thousands of dollars. They actually pay them a lot of money for getting those jobs done. So basically that's where a technical writer can also come in, and that's like an example of a tutorial and a how-to guide. So it's not just writing articles as well, as also you can also do stuff like this as a technical writer. So moving forward, I don't spend time talking too much. So training materials is another type that of technical writing that falls under instructional content. So it's basically a type of document that or I'll call them resources that are used by or used for training employees or training customers. That's organizations, customers that are obviously working in organizations, or sorry, employees under organizations and customers that use products from organizations. So these documents serve as training resources, and they usually consist of like online modules, training guides that are usually led by instructors. So that's typically what training material stands here. So this I'll also share an example of that too. I think Microsoft has an example of a training material. So you can see what I'm talking about. Um, okay. Mm, right. Copy. Okay. So yeah, so that's an example of a training material. It's Microsoft Docs learning path. They have it has like various free learning paths, like collection of modules and resources that are designed to teach people specific skills related to software products. So that's where technical writer can also come in preparing such training matches. This is an example, right? So depends on the organization, depends on the use case or the scenario. So you could always look different. So this is just an example. So moving forward, the second type of technical writing is that you probably or category that you probably come across as technical writer is in user assistance. So under user assistants have like user manuals and guides. So user manuals and guides are detailed guides that explain the features and functionalities of a product. That's how a product functions, the features of a product. They are guides that basically that are very detailed and they explain these features, and they also explain the functionalities of the product. And and the main goal of, and I also want you to note that each of these types of technical documents have like a specific aim, a specific goal. They don't just exist for existing sake. They all have like their use cases. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. So for the user manual and guides, their goal or the goal is to help users get the most out of that product or use the products. It's as easy as user, whatever. Anyways, there are detailed guides that help users get the most out of a product, understand the features of a product, understand the functionalities of a product. And I would share an example as well of a user manual so you can see what it looks like. So this one is opening. Also, if you guys are already aware of these types and you know other examples, you could also share it in the comment section for others to see. So you can see. So when you share the link, you can be like, this is an example, this is another example of a user manual, this is another example of a tutorial, maybe a tutorial you've already written or a how to guide you've already written. If you've already written one, you could also share it here too. So yeah, so that's an example of a user manual. It's like a downloadable PDF from Google that provides instructions on setting up, on using and troubleshooting your Google Nest thermostat. So that's basically, so that's an example of user manual. So moving forward, the online help content is another type that falls under user assistance. So it's type of document that you can call readily available assistance. It provides readily available assistance, and it basically provides quick answers to questions that users ask within a software program or a website. And I don't know if you've heard about FAQs, but FAQs usually fall under this online help content. And FAQs, you've heard about FAQs or you've heard about knowledge bases, they fall under these online help content. By knowledge, I'm basically FAQs or knowledge bases that are searchable, that users can actually search basically. So they fall under online help content. They're readily available to assist the users. And also I have an example for that too. The Microsoft Office has an online help for its users. Let me share that as well with you guys. So you see that the link I just shared with you, the Microsoft Office Online Help. So it's a website that serves as a knowledge base for Microsoft Office products. So you know Microsoft Office has product. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows about Microsoft Office, so it's popular. So like Microsoft Office has its products, and it's this link I shared with you serves as a knowledge base for Microsoft Office products, and their users are able to search articles and FAQs basically. So if I don't know if you can see the if you can see if you open the link, you see where they say which office program, they ask which office program are you using. So if you, for instance, if you pick one of like PowerPoint or something, you can actually look for, or let me see, if you can pick, you can click on OneNote. Let's say you select OneNote, you can go to the OneNote Help Center where you can get help. So basically, it's like an online help content example. So the third type of technical writing or category I'm going to mention is the marketing and sales enablement. So under that, you have white papers and product brochures. So white papers, I don't know if you've heard about white papers, but white papers are long and very informative articles that basically explain a company's knowledge and the solutions that they offer. So it explains the company's knowledge and the solutions that the company offers. So who are these documents written for? They are basically written for the people that make the important decisions, the decision makers, or those who are already familiar with the field. You can call them like industry specialists. So those are who white papers are like meant for. So I'll do a quick recap. So white papers are like long informative articles that basically explain the company's knowledge and also the solutions that they offer, and they're meant for decision makers and industry specialists basically. So let me show you an example of a white paper. Please let me know if I'm going a fast pace so I can calm down because I can talk fast. So let me be sure that I'm not confusing you. Okay, so let me show you the an example of a white paper. Microsoft people, if you've heard, you know Microsoft, so if you've heard about Microsoft Azure is an example. The it's the link I shared with you just now. It's an example of a white paper, so you can check it out as well. Then the product brochure, sales sheets, and sales sheets are basically marketing materials, and they are very concise. They're concise marketing materials, and they highlight the key features and the benefits of a product, or let's say a service. So they are concise marketing materials, and they highlight the key features of a product or a service, or the benefits of a product as well, or a service. And their goal or the purpose of these documents are to generate customer interest. What I mean by that is the documents are not just meant to inform customers about a product. So customers do not just learn about the product from a product brochure or sell sheet. Basically, these documents are meant to spark the interest of the customers, and also encourage them to learn more. So that's like the whole point of the product brochure. An example, I struggle to get an example for this one, but I think this would do. This Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra brochure, I think it would do. This is just to show you an example. Yeah, this one would do. So in this document or this link I'm sharing with you right now, you see how concise it looks. So basically, product brochures are very concise, and they are marketing materials, and their aim is just to get the customers, spark their interest, and encourage them to learn more about the products. Yeah. So the last category I'm going to talk about is the technical communication. So there are also types of technical writing that fall under technical communication, and it has to do with, for instance, API documentation, technical reports. Like I said, there are other examples, but these are just a few of them. So API documentation are reference guides. They serve as reference guides, and they explain how developers can interact with and also use APIs. So API stands for application programming interface, if I'm correct. So like they basically serve as reference guides for developers or programmers to be able to interact with an API, or to be able to use or consume an API to build their own application. So that's the sole purpose of API documentation and what they are. So an example would be GitHub API document. GitHub has an API documentation that serves as a very good example. Let me share that one with you guys as well. Yeah. Okay. So this example from GitHub is it provides a detailed documentation for developers to be able to interact with the GitHub's application programming interface API, basically. So with this detailed documentation, developers can interact with the API with GitHub's API. So that's like the whole point of API documentation, and a very good example. So technical reports. Technical reports is another type of technical writing that falls, or technical document that falls under technical communication. So technical reports are basically documents that are very in-depth. They're in-depth, and they basically present the results of a research or investigation in a clear and concise manner. So you find technical reports mostly used in science related fields or engineering related fields. I have an example from NASA. Let me share with you. This is an example from NASA showing a technical report. So it has like a vast collection of technical reports that are published by NASA. So that's an example. So technical reports are basically in-depth documents. They go in-depth and they present results of, let's say, research or investigations. And they're usually used in engineering fields or science related fields. So there are other types of technical writing as well that they're not listed on my screen. I'm just going to mention them. Case studies. Case studies is an example. Yeah, it's a very good example too. By case studies, I mean documents that showcase successful implementations of a product or a service. They would most of the time case studies include real world examples and data, and they are usually used in marketing, like should I say, they are used for marketing purposes. So to market a product or to market a service or to sell a product or sell a service. So that's where case studies come in handy. So technical writers also write case studies. So for instance, Dropbox has a case study. Um, you didn't see the NASA link. I just shared it just now. Can you see it, Raymond? I shared it like probably 2 minutes ago or a minute ago. Okay, for an example of case study, Dropbox has like a case study that they wrote on how Slack increased their productivity by 30%. So I'm going to write that down. It basically details how Slack helped them improve their team productivity. So that's an example of a case study. Let me share it with you. Right. So as a technical writer, you might get a job that requires you to write a case study that basically helps the company's marketing process or helps market the product owned by the company. So, and showcases the successful implementation of that product or that service. That's basically what a case study is. Then another example I did not mention is it's another type rather that I did not mention is technical proposals. So technical proposals are basically documents, persuasive documents that outline a technical solution to a specific problem, and they're mostly used in business settings or business settings to like secure funding or secure contracts. Then another one I did not mention is SOPs, standard operating procedures. They're not like pretty popular like that, Sha, but you'd most likely might get a job that requires you to write in SOPs or standard operating procedures. That's what SOP stands for. So SOPs are basically detailed instructions that outline the steps for completing a specific task or a process consistently and efficiently. I've written an SOP before, so it's just detailed instruction on how to or on the steps required for completing a specific task or a process. Yeah. So an example, I don't know if this example would really stand, but you guys can check it out, sure. It's really hard to find an example of an SOP. Usually companies I don't think they will release it. Like the one I wrote, I don't think they will release it. It's usually used in-house. But this one is Mayo Clinic. It's a popular health related stuff. But you can check it out, chat, to just give you like maybe a clue of what standard operating procedures look like. So moving forward to the next slide. Are you tired already? Because it just feels like I'm just talking and talking and talking. Um, I, are you flowing with me? Like, are you getting what I'm saying? Can you get what I'm saying? Are you understanding anything I'm saying so far? Let me know in the comment section if you're understanding the things I've been saying so far. But don't worry, I'll share the slides with you guys after when I'm sending my next newsletter. Or I'll share the slides on Discord so you guys can have access to the slide. But are you following me? Um, let me know in the comment section so that I know you guys are actually understanding what I'm saying. Okay, cool. Um, so I'm going to go forward to identifying the purpose and audience. So far, we've discussed different types of technical writing, and now let's discuss how these tools or these technical writing methods or these types of technical writing can be used effectively. So let's say you're building something cool like a robot, and the robot is you're using the robot to be able to fold your laundry, right? You want the robot to be able to fold your laundry, and before you grab the tools that you would use to build this cool robot, you need a plan, right? Like you won't just start building the robot, you need a plan. So in technical writing, having a clear purpose and understanding your audience is like that building plan. So having a clear purpose and understanding your audience is very important that you understand this. Like it's very important that you're able to identify the purpose of that technical document, the purpose of writing that particular technical document, and also understand the audience, that's the target audience, who the content is meant for. Basically, that's what it means. So it guides everything you do. When you have a clear purpose and an understanding of your audience, it guides everything that you do, from the content that you choose to the language that you use, basically. So from the examples I shared with you, you can be able to tell the purpose of each document based on the content and the style. If you notice, all those documents I share with you, they're like different, right? Each of the types are kind of different. So their content and their style is different. So that's how you're able to tell that, okay, you're able to tell the purpose of each of these documents. I already mentioned each of the purposes, right? When I was discussing those types, but you be from just looking at the content and from just looking at the style that was used in writing that particular technical content, you'll be able to tell the purpose of that document. So also you also be able to tell who the target audience is for. For instance, if you see a user manual, right? I shared an example of user manual with you. If you see other types of user manuals as well, you'll be able to tell that, okay, it's a user manual. Why is it a user manual? Because of how it's structured, because of this content. Let me not go into structure yet because I'll discuss that later. Because of how it's because of the style, because of the content, okay, because it's it contains step by step instructions, step by step guide on how to use your products. Okay, that's it, user manual. So that's how you're able to tell which document is which, and also to know that, okay, this who the target audience is. For instance, if you're writing a user manual for a company's product, is company's developer product or software product, for instance, you'll be able to tell that, okay, the target audience are developers. Or sorry, if you're writing an API documentation, right, you're able to tell that, okay, the target audience are developers who will consume this API, basically. So those are your target audience. And you'll be able to now streamline who the target audience are. Like, is it a REST API? Let me not go into details anyway. So, for example, when you see a user manual with step-by-step instructions, you can tell that its purpose is to guide the user through a specific task clearly and concisely. I keep using clearly and concisely because I want to sink it to your head. So you can know that technical writing, in technical writing, you must actually imbibe the culture of writing clearly and concisely. So the audience here would be, like I mentioned, someone who isn't familiar with it, would likely be someone who isn't familiar with the products and needs clear instructions. And you could also come across, for instance, if you come across a white paper, you can tell that its purpose is likely to establish the company's expertise on a particular technical topic. And the audience would probably be, like I said earlier, makers, right? Or industry professionals, right? Who are looking for in-depth information. So that's how you're able to tell which document is which based on the content, based on the style. And that's how you're also able to tell who the target audience is, right? So right. And also, at the end of the session, at the end of both sessions, there will be a take-home assignment. I added this in the newsletter, so you can always go back and check. There are take-home assignments that you would actually try out, and when you try out those assignments, when you actually do the assignments, you would be able to, try out these concepts and understand what it means to write in a clear and concise way. Because I would review them, even though I have a very busy schedule, I'll still try and review the documents and stuff like that. Let me move forward. So next slide. So next slide is going to be about knowing your why and who. It's still on identifying the purpose and audience, just like continuation of what we're talking about just now. So now you know how crucial it is to know the purpose and audience in creating technical documents, or now you understand what it means to know the purpose and know the audience when you're creating a technical document or when you see one. So let's go a little bit deeper and discuss how these elements actually influence what you write and how you write it. So, for instance, if you're explaining how to bake a cake for bakers in the house, if you explain how to bake a cake to a professional chef, you would use a different language, right, than when you're explaining it to your younger sibling. Am I right? Like, you use a different language, right? For a professional chef, you know that the professional chef has already passed that level of learning, or I don't know how to put it, but you get what I'm saying. So you're explaining how to bake a cake to your younger sibling, you probably use a simpler method. So that's now, to be a technical writer, you need to understand the purpose and your audience. And for the that example I just give you basically is to make you understand that understanding your audience means not just knowing that, okay, because an API documentation, then this my audience are developers. Not just that, you know that, okay, you know that in programming or in web development, software development, you know there are different levels. There are newbies, there are beginners, there are intermediate, there are experts, and all that. So you know that, okay, am I meant to use like a simpler tone in writing this content? Am I supposed to use simpler terms and stuff like that? Because maybe my target audience are beginners, so I have to use a simpler terms. If my target audience are intermediate, I have to use a bit complex, right? Or terms that I won't say bit complex, because normally in technical writing you're not supposed to write things that are complex. So I would say you're writing, let's say you're writing your target audience are intermediate, so you probably use a term that a beginner would probably not really understand, but will be conversant with an intermediate. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So I hope you get what I'm saying. So let's discuss the purpose itself. So what do I mean by purpose? The purpose of your technical document acts like a roadmap. And by roadmap, I think you get like a clue what I'm trying to say. A roadmap, is something that guides you, right? So basically, the purpose of a technical document guides your writing style, it guides your content selection, and it also guides the structure that you would use. So the first thing, if I when you're presented with a gig or a job and you're asked to write a technical document, whatever the type is, the first thing you have to do is actually to understand the purpose of the document, of technical document. If you do not know the purpose of the technical document, you will not be able to tell or determine which writing style you're supposed to use, or the content type, or you don't even know. You wouldn't even know, because usually the not let me not say usually, sometimes the when you get a gig, they might not tell you that, okay, this is supposed to be a tutorial, or this is supposed to be how to guide, or this is supposed to be a user manual, or this is supposed to be an API documentation. You as tech writer, we don't tell them that, okay, this must be like this. So sometimes, right? So knowing the purpose of technical documents would guide you and act as a roadmap. So right. So on the other hand, if you're let me run through the audience. I think I've gone through some things, so there's no need of explaining again. So for the audience aspect, understanding your audience is very important as well as understanding or knowing the purpose of the technical document. So for instance, if you're explaining, like I said earlier, let me give you another example that's similar to the example I gave you regarding the API documentation. So for instance, if you're explaining complex software to someone who's not tech savvy, you'd likely avoid using technical jargon. Technical writing, we call it technical jargon. Maybe basically terms that people struggle to understand, or your target audience struggles to understand. That's what we call technical jargon. So you'd avoid using technical jargon and also focus on clear explanations with the language that you use on a day-to-day basis, right? Because you want to confuse your target audience, you want to confuse your readers. All right, so you need to also understand that considering your audience can influence the level of detail that you provide. So what that means is, okay, for the example I used about writing, let's say an article for developers or an API documentation for developers. So let me use an article for developers, and you've known that, okay, your target audience are um are are intermediate developers. You wouldn't want to go into too much detail explaining beginner stuff, right? You want to go into too much detail, right? So knowing that, okay, these are my audience, then you know, okay, the level of detail that you provide in that content or in that technical documents. So that's what it means. Then also it also determine the complexity of the language that you use, which is clear. Then you also know the type of visuals that you also include. So you know the type of visuals. Are you going to be including code snippets? Are you going to be including illustrations? Are you going to be designing icon or whatever? Anyways, so you know the type of visuals you also include. So for example, um I've gone through so many examples. Let me move. Let me move to the next slide. Before I move to the next slide, the key takeaway from this section is by clearly defining the purpose and understanding your audience, you can be able to tailor your technical writing to be clear, to be informative, and also effective for the intended reader, who we usually call the target audience. So, the next slide, we talk about structuring, right? How to structure your, or not say how to structure, to actually throw more light on structuring, because I was about to mention structuring I think in the previous slides, and I was like, I was going to discuss it later. Now I'm discussing it. So let's say you walk into a room that looks very disorganized with clothes, books, everything just scattered all over the place, and you're looking for a tiny piece of paper. So you can imagine how difficult it would be to find what you need, right? So the same goes for technical documents. When you have a clear and understand, I say understand, when you have a clear and organized structure in technical documents, it aids the user's comprehension. So your users will be able to understand where the information you're trying to pass across clearly, or easier, sorry, not clearly, easier, because of the structure you're using, because the structure you're using is clear and organized. So it's not hard for them to find stuff, to find information. Because you know when you write articles, for instance, right? When you write technical articles, yeah, people don't just sit around. I know they are nerds, right? I know they are geeks, but in the developer aspect, people don't sit around and just start, okay, let me go and look for this article that this person wrote and just read it for fun. I said they are geeks. Usually people are looking for solutions to their problems, right? They're looking for something. They're always looking for something. So when you're looking in the process of looking for that thing, they're searching for, okay, what is this thing? And they use like a search engine like Google Chrome. They search for the particular concept, and then your article pops up around Google, and they open your article and they read it. So now they're reading your article with the goal in mind. They're looking for something. So they're in search of something. So if your article is not well organized and structured, it's going to be very difficult for them to find what they need, and they'll most likely discard the article or not even read it, do not even bother reading it, right? So that's why it's very important for you to understand structure and organization when you're writing technical documents, because at the end of the day, the whole point of technical writing is for your users to be able to comprehend, to be able to understand the information you're trying to pass across, and so that they will not have to be stressed out to find the information they need, or have to struggle to find what they're looking for. So that's that. So let me discuss why structure matters. Like I've already said that, so I'm just going to repeat myself or do a recap on what I've already said. So first, the first reason, major reason why structure matters in technical writing is the organization, clear organization, because it improves readability and also user experience. So by user experience, I think you understand what I mean by user experience, right? The experience of users. But I'm sure you understand what I mean. So like another reason why structure matters is um in helping your readers grasp the concept faster and to be able to follow along, right, with your article. So usually your information is meant to be logically structured. In the last class I explained what logically structuring or whatever, I explained what it means. So your information is meant to be logically structured with things like headings, formats like headings, bullet points, visuals, all those things, all those formats kind of make it easier for your readers to be able to grasp the concept and follow along. I'm going to move faster now. So I know you may be already be wondering how you can actually structure your technical documents. So let's discuss some common principles for structuring technical documents. I already mentioned them. I'm just going to run through it quickly. So first of all, one of the principles, in fact almost like 90% of documents that you come across, you see headings, you come across lists, you come across tables, you come across visuals. So headings are like signposts that guide the readers through the document's content. So when you use clear and concise headings that accurately reflects the content of each section, so your headings are not supposed to be um aloof, like for instance, let's say you're talking about something, like let's say you're talking about what is solidity in blockchain, and then your first heading is like, so meant to be, let's say, an introduction, then what is solidity, then your first heading is unrelated to what solidity is, but the content under that heading is about what solidity is. So it's not meant to be that way. It's supposed to be, your readers are supposed to be able to see the heading and and already know what to expect by reading the content that follows on that. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm speaking too much English. So for the list aspect, list is common. Like if you use Google Docs, you should know what I mean by bullet points now. So lists are basically for presenting steps in a process. So when you present steps in a process, you could either use like numbered dates, another list, or the bulletable, and to basically list out the key features of a product or other sets of related information, right? So the whole point of the bullet points or the whole point of numbered lists are to ensure or make it easy for your readers to be able to scan through your document and find important details that they need. Because I've come across technical documents, I've come across documents that it's very difficult to read. Most of the time, why it's difficult is because the text look very clustered, and the writer doesn't really know how to structure. They lack structure, and like they don't make use of lists. They don't know when to make use of lists. So the whole text to the writer, when you're writing something, you're in your head, it, right? You're writing it, but you have to put your target audience your target audience has to be like you have to always keep them in mind when you're writing, because you know that you're writing it for a purpose, you're writing for them to understand. So the way you write it, the way you structure the document matters a whole lot. Because when you write it, if you're writing it, when you read it, you already know what you're writing, but you're writing it for someone that does not know. You're writing for someone that doesn't have experience with what you're writing about, right? So you have to use like things like lists to make your paragraph or your head, your content or your whatever look clearer. So when your readers see, they're not overwhelmed with too much text, stuff like that. Then for tables are another structuring principle that you should imbibe as a technical writer. So tables are like when you want to use them, when you want to like organize complex data or present comparisons in a clear and a concise way. So you use tables. Um, Tables now. I don't know if you use Google Docs. If you come across Google Docs, you use Google Docs. You know that it's very easy for you to use tools like Google Docs to like write tables, except you're using Markdown, that is a bit more, but be more different. But with Google Docs, seamless. Just click the insert table and you pick the number of columns and rows that you want to include in your document, and that way it's very, very easy. You're able to present complex data and save your reader stress. Visuals is another principle that you should also imbibe in writing. When you're writing stuff, the visuals basically help to enhance understanding. Like visuals, I mean images, diagrams, flow charts. You can use it to like enhance your reader's understanding, and you can use it to break up text so that your text does not look clustered. And you can also use it in situation where you want to illustrate something, you want to illustrate a concept. I use tools like Whimsical, Mirror. Um, I use several tools to design illustrations. I'm not a designer, but I design illustrations for my works. So basically, you can use tools like that to help, boost the it also helps your document to be very engaging so that your readers are not bored with so much text. So remember, the specific structure of your document will depend on the type of document you're creating and its purpose. So you cannot say, okay, because I use lists in this my tutorial, I'm going to use it in my API documentation, or I'm going to use it. No, it depends on. I'm just using that as an instance. So it's not like don't use list in API documentation. Sorry, I'm using that as an example. So how you structure your document depends on the type of document that you're creating and also its purpose. Right, but these core structuring principles I mentioned, headings, lists, tables, and visuals, will help you ensure that your technical documents are clear, are organized, and are user friendly. So finally, we're going to take like 10 minutes break. I don't know if 10 minutes is too long, but 10 minutes break to just relax, and then we'll come back. And when we come back, we'll go into the documentation engineering, the second session, documentation engineering. That would I don't think it will take as much time as as the last session took. So we'll be out of here as soon as possible. But take the 10 minutes break and come back. Please drop your questions in the comment section. I don't even know if I should be. I think I think for those that would like to take the break, I take the break. But for those that ask questions, or if you have any questions, you can ask them now. Not related to documentation engineering, related to the session I just had. You can ask those questions now. Then I take the questions while others can go on the break. So I'm scrolling the comment section to see their questions. Right. Yeah. Okay. Um looking at the advent of, okay, Michael is asking, looking at the advent of AI tools, is there still market for all these types of technical writing? Yeah, there is. Oh, there is, yeah. Oh wait, let me get this straight. Are you talking about writing articles or writing documents related to AI? Because I think that's like the field that is like bubbling now. So is that what you're asking, Michael? Please, can you clarify if that's what you're asking? Then next question is from Michael still. As a beginner in technical writing, how long does it take to get a job? And what is to be done in order to land a remote job? Okay, so it's every field, in every field path, you there's no defined time for you to get a job, if I'm correct. Like, I don't think there's any defined time, but it depends on your works. Your portfolio as tech writer, as a developer, you probably just have like a portfolio where you have list to your applications and all that, right? They're built, or buttons and all that to applications that you've built, or stuff like that. But for technical writing, your portfolio is basically your samples. You write your technical writing samples, your documentation samples, those samples that are live, like the ones on your blog. Those are what show. That's what you call your portfolio, right? So when you apply for jobs, and you feel you're good enough to apply for a job, then you start applying for jobs. Although it's very difficult to get jobs now, but it's still easy for many people. But like, let me not discourage you. You can get a job, oh, please. Oh, don't get me wrong. So like, I'm not saying the job market is crazy at the moment, but you can get a job. So when you apply for jobs, or you apply to publications, or you apply for maybe a documentation engineering job, or a senior technical role, or a full-time role, or whatever, or part-time, when you apply for those jobs, it's your portfolio, those samples that you're already written, that would speak for you. So my take is just have like as many samples as you can have. Make sure they are good. Maybe share them, since I like created a platform for you guys to join on Discord, so you guys can probably communicate with each other and share your work with each other to proofread and maybe get as good as you can get, and then start applying for those remote jobs. Because your remote jobs will not come and find you in your house. So you have to put in the applications and your link to your portfolio, showing your samples. I don't know if that answers your question. So I can't tell you how long it takes. So it depends on you. It depends on God, and it depends on your luck. And depends on the company and the opportunity, and when the opportunity comes as well, or when you see the opportunity. Depends on a lot of factors. So question from Victoria concerning lists: is it okay to use step one, step two, or you must number them? Okay, step one, step two. If you're saying step one, that's like a heading, and you're talking about headings. If you're saying step one, or step one, uh mm, okay, so like, if you're saying steps, if you want to like divide your, let's say, your article, for instance, into steps, or your documentation into steps, you'd say stuff like maybe the step one, then step one, then a colon. Let me type that down. So if you're saying step one, for instance, right, and then say, okay, step one, and then say it could, you add a column, and say stuff like um opening or clone the repository. Let me see, clone the repository. Sorry, I'm typing it for you to see. Repository, right? So for example, step one, clone the repository. That's a heading, right? That's not a list. Is that you miss out on the questions? Oh, I might even start before the 10 minutes, because I'm already even getting tired. I'm sure you guys are already getting tired. I don't want the class to be too long. So, all right. So I don't know if that answers your question, Victoria. So if you're using list, when I said list, what I meant was like numbered list, to like numbered list, um, bulleted list. Let me type that down. Like bulleted list, numbered list, bulleted list, or unordered, or unordered. They call it unordered list as well, if I'm correct though. Well, I think unordered and ordered list falls under bulleted list. If someone can correct me, please. Bulleted list, or unordered list, or ordered list. So ordered lists like one, two, three, one. Other lists are numbered lists like one, two, three, like that. But Victoria, do you know what I mean by bulleted list though? Have you seen a bulleted list? Like an unordered list. That's a list that is not numbered, basically. um Please, I have a question in regards to audience analysis. Okay, please go ahead, Patricia. Please, what's your question? What question do you have in regards to audience analysis? If you're still on the call, anyways. Different types of technical writing jobs generally, Michael. Okay, that's in regards to your question, Michael, right? Your first question. Let me scroll up to your first question. Okay, you were asking, looking at the advent of AI tools, is there still a market for all these types of technical writing? And you said, ooh, I'm getting overwhelmed with the number of comments. Okay, and you said the different types of technical writing jobs. Yes, so yeah, they are. Just look for them. You could also look for AI community to join. Maybe from there you can find, or you can search on LinkedIn, or you can search for. There's a trick I do that I look for technical writer and technical articles or publications that are accepting technical writers. So you can start write for us. Then with after write for us, you can add AI at the end. I'm Michael. So like you can search for like write for us, then AI at the end. You can also search LinkedIn. I think Twitter has a job board now. You can also search there. But on Google, if you're doing a Google search, you can do write for us. I'm telling you, put my trick. I'm not supposed to tell you put my trick for free. But like write for us, yeah, if you're into DevOps or other fields, or let's say any other field you're into, you can just type write for us and then the name of the field you're into. Maybe not type AI per se, you can type artificial intelligence to elaborate, then Google it, then you probably find publications and companies that are looking for technical writers in those fields. I can also search LinkedIn too, Sha. Next question. So I don't know if I don't have a timekeeper. I don't know how many minutes has gone past. But someone can please can tell me when it's 10 minutes past, please, so that I can continue for go on with the next session. I should have been looking at the time. Sorry. The next question is okay. Is there a guide from Patricia? Is there a guide to audience analysis, or you just do it by yourself? What are the things you take into consideration for audience analysis? Okay, for analyzing your audience, most of the time when you get a gig, or whoever your client is, there are people you call subject matter experts. I explained who they are in my last class. But if you don't know what they are, they're basically people that are very knowledgeable about that particular concept you're writing about, or that specific topic that you're writing about. So those are who we call subject matter experts, short for SMEs. So these people are people like, maybe they comprise of engineers, it could be developers that worked on that. Let's say you're writing an API documentation, for instance. So developers that worked on that API, um yeah, so developers that work on that built the API per se, sorry, you could contact them as your SME, as your subject matter expert, to help you, not help you per se, to ask direct questions on. Oh, wait, I'm going foul. Sorry, let me come back. You're asking about audience analysis, right? So you need to tell who your audience are. So from your student matter experts or the clients or whoever gave you the writing job, you can tell who this article is for. They will tell you most of the time. Like, or from the topic, for instance, if the topic is on the how to create a GitHub repository, for instance, you obviously, who creates a repository, who creates GitHub repository, what from what a GitHub repository is, you can tell who the audience is, right? You can tell that, okay, they are developers. Developers are the ones. The purpose of GitHub registry, you know what the purpose of a GitHub registry is, right? One, then you can tell, okay, is who are the users, right? Who are the users? Who are majority of the users of a GitHub repository, or GitHub per se? Then you can say, okay, they're developers. So from that, you can tell that, okay, my audience are developers. Then based on the article title as well, from the topic of the article, because the article is on how to create a GitHub repository. So you can tell that, okay, this article is beginner friendly. So my target audience are um, um, beginner developers, or developers who are beginners, basically. I don't know if that makes sense, Patricia. So usually you can analyze who your audience are from the topic of the article, or from the topic of, basically from doing your own research, because technical writing has to do with a lot of research, man. You're going to do a lot of research. So from your research, you can tell who your audience are. Then you can also ask your SMEs, if you have SMEs that you're working with, you can ask them who is this document meant for, who are your target audience. You ask them target, they should know what target audience is anyways. So you can ask them who are your target audience. If it's a company you're writing for, if it's an organization you're writing for, they will tell you, okay, the target audience are people, they are users of our products. So you know that, okay, they're the product users. So you need to tailor your content to the target audience. I think I'm going to, in 1 minute time, I'll start the next class. I hope, I don't know, is it up to 10 minutes, please? Because someone tell me it's up 10 minutes. So that others don't miss out if they actually left the call. Victoria, please can you, sorry, Patricia, please can you let me know if I answered your question? Victoria, okay, oh, understood. You mean you should, yeah. Yeah, you should, yeah, you can use list under a heading. You can use list not just under a heading, you can use list in your content, anywhere in your article or anywhere in your documents. But you don't just use them anyhow, use them for a purpose. Yeah, cool. Okay. You can't see the link. Sorry, what link are you talking about, Salam? Is it up to 10 minutes so I can go on with the next session so we can wrap this up quickly? Okay. Does having a technical skill, we have another question from Patricia. Does having a technical skill make technical writing jobs easier? Because as a beginner technical writing, sorry, I wasn't saying that correctly. Because as a beginner technical writer, most jobs require having a technical skill in a particular field. Yeah, um it depends on the field you're writing. If you're writing a user guide for a company's product, all you need to do is to understand the product, do your research, understand how the product, or use the product, maybe you use the product yourself, understand the products, right? And then you'll be able to write a user guide, something like that. Then if, let's say, you require your writing like an API documentation, yeah, you know that it definitely require you understanding how to write APIs or how to read APIs. So that's a technical skill, right? Require. So it depends on the job. It depends on the job role. Okay. I don't know if that answers your question, Patricia. Please let me know. Okay, it's up to 10 minutes. Thank you, Solomon. Okay, Samuel said drop the apps you mentioned for illustration. Okay, whimsical, mirror. Which other one again? Canva. Yeah, you can use Canva. There are others. There are many, actually, but these are like the major ones I use a lot. Yeah, but you can also research for more. Okay, you're welcome. So, is there any other question for this session? So we can move to the next section because I'm really tired. Okay. Right. So this next session is on documentation engineering. Right. And remember that this session, the entire class today is on exploring the types and structure of technical writing and documentation engineering. So I'm moving to the next slide. So for the next slide, I'm going to do a quick recap on the introduction to documentation engineering because I already covered that in the last class. I'm just going to do a very quick recap. So so remember that documentation engineering goes beyond just writing technical documents, right? If you attended the last class, I think I mentioned this, that documentation engineering goes beyond just writing technical documents. It's a broader field and it focuses on the entire documentation life cycle. Like for by life cycle, sorry. By life cycle, I mean everything from planning to creating the document, to managing the document, to publishing the document, to maintaining the document, and also updating the document throughout its lifespan. So that's basically so. And also in the last class, I think I remember, if I remember correctly, I talked about the importance of considering the big picture of documentation in documentation engineering, and that unlike traditional writing, documentation engineering focuses on the entire journey of the document, making sure, and the whole point of it is to make sure that, or rather, the whole point of the documentation life cycle that involves, like I mentioned earlier just now, planning, creating, managing, publishing, maintaining, and updating the documentation is to ensure that the documentation stays relevant. By relevant, stays up to date, and it's also easy to find. it stays up to date for the people that need it, right? It's very important. So as a documentation engineer, you're going to be doing the planning. You're going to plan. You plan the documentation lifecycle. You create the documents. You manage the document. You publish the document. You maintain the document. You update the document. So yeah, that's documentation engineering, and it also involves the collaboration. It's not just you. Sorry. So I mentioned that in my last class, but I'm going to do a recap. It's not just you. You're not the only one involved in the documentation engineering life cycle. So it's not just you. You know, usually if you're in the traditional, I'm calling it traditional writing, but as a technical writer, if you're writing like a technical article, it's just you, right? You're the only one writing, just you, and maybe your SME or your clients. You get, so it's just mostly just you and maybe your editor if there's an editor. So, but in documentation engineering, it involves a collaboration. There's a collaboration between different roles. You have the subject matter experts, you have the technical writers. Because I also forgot to mention that in documentation engineering, it's not every time that you write, it's not every time that you be actively writing. You might actually be the one building the documentation system, but I don't want to go into detail for about that. But it will actually require you building a documentation system, writing like code and all that. But like building documentation system and working with technical writers and designers as well, stakeholders. So it usually has to do with a collaboration, right? So moving forward, though, right? Now that I've been able to. Okay, Samuel, please, where's the link to Discord channel? It's a newsletter I shared. Um, I'll share it. Remind me before the call, this session, before the session ends, or while when it ends, I'll share the link with you. So moving forward, now I've been able to refresh our memory of the documentation engineering. This session will go deeper into discussing the different tools and processes used throughout the documentation life cycle, how to collaborate effectively with various stakeholders, and also how to create high quality technical documentation that helps users. So let's move to our next slide. So the documentation process. So let's look at the documentation process. On the screen, you can see information gathering, content creation, um, formatting, visuals, version control, and publishing. Publishing is actually the last step, but I was too lazy to do 05. But publishing is the last step of the process. But I put it together, but it's not together. What I'm trying to say is publishing is not together with version control. It's actually the last step, but I was too lazy to like duplicate it. Sorry. So yeah, so now that we understand the importance of considering the big picture of documentation engineering, or now that we understand the big picture of documentation engineering, let's go and let's now discuss what goes behind the scenes. So let's say you're building a house. You wouldn't just start building the wall of the house, right? You wouldn't just start building the wall of the house without having a plan, right? So basically, the documentation engineering process is similar, as it involves a series of steps to ensure that your technical documents are well written, they are informative, and they're also user friendly. I don't know if that makes sense. I use this scenario building a house because if you're building a house, you know that it requires series of steps. You usually have like a plan, right? An architectural plan or whatever. I'm not a builder, so but you know what I mean, right? So like the documentation engineering process is similar to this building process because it involves a series of steps to ensure that your technical documents are well written and they're user friendly and they're also informative. So let's see what a typical documentation process involves. As you can see on the screen, the information gathering is the first step. So the first step involved in the documentation process, as a documentation engineer, you're hired to work as a documentation engineer. The first thing that you do is gather information gathering. You also do this in traditional writing an article. This is where you start from usually, right? But in the documentation process, you start from the information gathering stage, and this is where the groundwork is laid. So the team gathers information from various sources. Like I said, I'm saying team because, like I said earlier, in documentation engineering, it usually has to do with collaboration. You usually have a team, you work together. So the team gathers information from various sources. Let's say, for instance, I keep using this API documentation example because, like, I think the easiest example I can use. But for the API documentation, let's say you're hired as a documentation engineer, you got a job to work as a documentation engineer to write an API documentation for the company, and you are coming in as a technical writer, right? So you don't know much about you're not the one that builds the API, so you didn't create the API, so you don't really know much about it, right? So you would have your team comprised of the engineers that built, maybe one or two engineers that worked on the API. they would serve as your SME, as your subject matter expert. And then maybe other existing documents. Maybe you have to look at other existing API documentation to maybe get an idea of how you structure the API documentation. So that's where you'd go and go in search of existing API documentations available online or other products and stuff like that. Then also from the user feedback, let's say the organization has their community. They have no usually developer, they're usually the developer communities in the organization. So maybe they have like a user. So let's say you have to work with the community manager that would bring maybe problems that users are facing for you, maybe feedback from users, right, that they get, and then you would have to incorporate that feedback in your documentation. So the process of getting all this information is what we tag information gathering. So this information gathering process is basically ensure that the final document is accurate and up to date. So that's the whole point of this process. Then the second stage is the content creation. So once the information is collected, once you've gotten your information, it's time to create the content itself, right? So what you do as technical writer is to take that information and turn it into clear, concise, and well-structured instructions, explanations, or other content, depending on the type of document you're writing. Then the third stage is formatting and visuals. This stage you focus on making the document visually appealing and easy to navigate. Now you have your content, right? You have your type of document, but you want to enhance the document, make it more appealing, right? And also is easier for the users to be able to navigate, or for the developers to be able to navigate through, for instance, the API documentation. So formatting elements like headings, bullet points, like I mentioned earlier, and tables, I can be used in this case to organize the content. Then visuals like screenshots, diagrams, and illustrations can also be incorporated to enhance the user's understanding. So version control is the next stage. So after you formatted your document is looking good, it's looking visually appealing, and you're sure that your users can understand, or your target audience can understand what you've written. So you move on to the version control, right? So as the documents are created and edited, it's very important that you keep track of the changes. Usually you have like version 1, version 1.1, version 1.2, and stuff like that, right? So like the version control, there are several version control tools existing that you can use. In writing documentation, you probably come across a tool like Gitbook. Gitbook allows you to have several versions of your there are several tools you can use to write documentation. So you can just do a research yourself and just Google and do something like get your hands busy. Go and Google research the version control tools that you can use to get and to keep track of the versions of the document, and also ensure that and also another reason why you would use version control tools is to ensure that everyone, your team members, are updated on the latest version. They know the latest iteration, and they can also reference it. You and your team members are able to reference. I'll go back to the previous version if need be, right? And also reference it, basically. So the fifth stage is the publishing stage. So now at this stage, your document is finalized and it's time for you to publish it. So it will include or involve it might involve uploading to the company's website, or maybe creating a downloadable PDF, or publishing it on an online documentation platform like Gitbook or Docreseries, or all the other documentation platforms, depending on the type of document you're working on. So these are like the stages in the documentation process. They are actually, I mentioned them, like I went through them really quick, but each of them are actually a whole lot of time. It takes a lot of time. Like each of these stages take a lot of time. So it's not like something you can just do in a day or stuff like that. So what tools do documentation engineers use to make this process smooth? Let's discuss a couple of examples. For example, I don't know if you've heard about CMS. CMS stands for Content Management Systems. So content management systems are like a central library for all your documents. So they are like a central library for all your documents. They allow teams to be able to store, to be able to manage, to be able to collaborate on different documents, all in a central location. So so there are several CMSs online. There's border CMS. There are different types of CMS, headless CMS. You can just do your research on those ones, so you can get familiar with various types of CMS tools that are available on that you can use as a documentation engineer. Then single source publishing tool is another example of a tool that a documentation engineer would use to make the documentation process smooth. So by single source publishing tools, I mean tools that streamline the process of creating different document formats. You know what I mean by different document formats, like I mentioned now earlier, like the online help, PDFs, printed manuals. Those are different document formats. So these single source publishing tools help streamline the process of creating different document formats from a single source of content. So it saves time and also ensures consistency across the different document versions. So you can also do your own research on single source. Let me write that down. So content management. Let me type that in the comment section so you guys can do your research later on. So content management systems, okay, systems, CMSs, short for CMSs, and single source publishing tools, publishing tools, right? So you can do your research. So remember that the specific steps and tools that are used in the documentation process may vary depending on the organization and the type of document that is being created. However, it's this documentation process I listed out, it kind of gives you a general idea of the key stages involved in creating high quality technical documents. So I'm going to quickly move forward to the next slide, which is the structure and this thing. After this slide, I think we have just one more slide and we're done. Thank God. So structure and standardization. So far we've discussed the documentation process and different stages involved. Now let's talk about something important in technical writing, and the consistency, or let's say the structure and standardization. So let's say you visit two different restaurants. At one, the tables are a little bit shaky. The menus are they all have different writing styles, and then each waiter gives you different instructions on, let's say, how to order and stuff like that. So that would be pretty confusing, right? So technical documents can be similar if the way they're organized, formatted, and worded isn't consistent. It can be frustrating for users to find the information they need, and this is where consistency stands for structure as well. So this is where consistency and standardization come in. So why the consistency matter? So one, on the screen, you can see I listed them out: clear and easy to use, reduce errors, improved user experience. So for the first point I listed out there on the screen, consistent structure and formatting makes documents easier to understand. They make documents easier to understand and navigate. So users will be able to know what to expect, and they can quickly find the information they're looking for. Then also another reason why consistency matters is the fact that there reduce errors. So standardized styles and terminology help minimize errors and ensure everyone is using the same language throughout the document. So when you use standardized styles and terminology, it helps minimize your errors that would have otherwise appeared in your document, right? And also ensures that everyone is using the same language throughout the document. Then improved user experience, another major reason why consistency matters. So a consistent and a well-structured document creates a professional and user-friendly experience for your readers. The documentation are usually presented in they're usually not informal, they're usually very professional. So when you use a consistent and when you master consistency and standards, because usually documentations comes with their each comes with their standards, right? And also the company you're working for would also have their own standard, right? Or maybe a style guide. So before I talk about style guide, let's talk about style guide next. So how do you achieve consistency? Style guides. So style guides are like a secret weapon. They're like a rule book for your technical documents. So a style guide will outline the preferred formatting, terminology, and even the visual style, like the font you're to use, kind of images you're to use, throughout the documentation, throughout your documentation. That's basically what a style guide does. So it kind of guides you, right? You follow your rule. Now, okay, this is what I'm supposed to use. This is the format I'm supposed to write this document in. These are the terminology I'm supposed to use. These are the type of visuals I'm supposed to use throughout the documentation, basically. So it's not like one part will have this type and that part will have a different format. Nah, they have to be because the format and terminology has to be consistent. The visuals have to be consistent, right? So what does a style guide cover? Formatting, terminology, visuals. By formatting, you know what I mean now. Font styles, headings, bullet points, how to present code snippets. The style guide will also have like a guide, a rule on how to present your code snippets in the documentation. For the terminology, when I say terminology, I'm referring to the preferred terms and that should be used, the technical concepts, basically how the technical concepts are referred to. That's what I mean by terminology. So you should also ensure that the technical concepts that you use, the terms that you use are consistent. Then visuals, you know what I mean by visuals, image, use of color, specific use of specific graphic design elements and all that should also be very consistent. That's where the designer comes in, because usually you as documentation engineer, you might maybe do some illustration, but I think most of the time these organizations have their own specific designers, and because they want to use the organization's defined color, that kind of stuff, right? So I want you to note that the level of detail in a style guide can vary depending on your needs. However, it's very crucial that you have a style guide in documentation, and because it maintains consistency and also creates, so you can create your own style guide, right? You can create your own style guide, or maybe where you're working they probably had their own style guide that you're supposed to follow, right? So all of this is just to ensure that you're creating high quality technical documentation. So on to our next slide. Finally, so this is our next slide on it's like continuation of what we just discussed, but this time around I'm focusing on modulation and information reuse. So we've discussed the importance of consistent structure and style guides in technical documentation. Now let's look at another important aspect that can streamline the documentation creation process, known as the modular content and information reuse, right? So for instance, let's say you're making a sandwich. For people that like food like me, if you're making a sandwich as your breakfast or whatever, then instead of having to prepare all the ingredients from scratch every time you want to make a sandwich, you can have like a pre-made fillings like lettuce, tomato. It's not like I do it, I'm just giving you an example. But like I have like pre-made fillings like your lettuce, your tomato, your cheese, and all that. So you can then use these, let's call these pre-made fillings, right? That you use every time you want to make a sandwich instead of preparing your sandwich from scratch. Let's refer to them as modules, in quotes, modules. So these modules create different types of sandwiches, right? So I'm just trying to give you a picture of what I mean by modular content. So it kind of allows you to reuse, you're reusing. So basically, what does a modular content mean? It basically means breaking down the information. So it involves breaking down complex topics into smaller and reusable pieces of content, basically contents that are reusable and smaller. So these models can be self-contained units of information that basically address specific aspects of a larger topic. So I don't know if you've seen an example of a documentary. I think I shared a couple of, I don't know, I think I probably shared some examples with you that will show that. I don't know if those examples will show that. But in the documentation, you have like different modules, and those modules are basically just self-contained units of information, and they're like smaller aspects of a larger topic. So usually in the documentation you have modules. And what are the benefits of modularity? Like, what's the whole point of this whole modular content structure? So one of it is reduce redundancy. So when you reuse content modules across different documents, you avoid rewriting the same information repeatedly, and thereby you're saving yourself time and you're also saving effort, right? Then another benefit of this modularity structure is improved consistency. So modular content ensure that it basically ensure consistent explanations and terminology throughout your documentation. And the last benefit I'll mention is the flexibility and easy update. So when like an information changes, you only need to just update the specific module, right? Like I said, documentation engineering has to do with several processes, like it's like a full life cycle. So, and I mentioned one of the processes I mentioned was updating. So you as a documentation engineer, you would probably be doing a lot of updating as well to update maybe older versions and all that. So let's say you want to update a specific you want to update an information based on maybe if user feedback, or based on the fact that maybe that package has been deprecated, right? So let's say you want to update that, you go to, since you're using a modular structure already, you just have to go to the specific module to update it. right? So basically, when the information changes, you only need to update the specific model. Not every document that references it basically. So that's the fun part. That's one of the major reasons why you as a documentation engineer should understand the modular structure and be able to imbibe it in when you're writing a documentation basically. So this makes maintenance and updates much easier. Right. So how do you put these modular content into practice? So let me mention some examples on how you can actually do this. One, by creating reusable code content snippets. So for instance, in writing troubleshooting steps, like common troubleshooting steps, defining technical terms or step-by-step instructions of for basic tasks, you can create those content you can create them as reusable content snippets. Then also when it comes to developing content libraries, like let's say a library of pre-written models that documentation engineers can access and incorporate into specific documents as needed. So you can do that as well. Then also using single source publishing tools, like I mentioned earlier. So these tools can help you streamline the process of creating different document formats, like I basically mentioned earlier, from a single source of modular contents. So I don't know if you probably have a clear understanding of what I mean by single source publishing tool now, because it has to do with um creating different document formats, but from a single source of modular content. So when you imbibe this culture of using modular content and reusing information in your documentation process, you'll be able to create a more flexible documentation process. And you also save your time, you save the company's resources, and you also be able to ensure that you're meeting the consistency requirements and the quality of that technical documentation. And also, it's safe to know that the level of detail or the level of complexity of a modular content will depend on your specific needs. That's when I say your specific needs, I'm talking about the documentation needs, right? So it depends on the specific needs. And also, understanding this concept can help you improve your efficiency and also be able to easily maintain the documentation efforts and save yourself time and stress. So, yeah, we've come to the end of these sessions. So please can let me know if you have any questions. And as you can see on the screen, that's like the take-home assignment. The take-home assignment is on the screen. So the you can either do the two of them, or you can do either one. So you can the first one, you can analyze a real world example of a technical document. You can choose the type that you want to analyze, and you can identify the areas where a structure could be improved for better clarity and usability. Or you could, for the second option, you can create a user guide. You can choose a technical product that you use daily, maybe a software product that you use, or an appliance that you use daily, or not daily per se, maybe an appliance that you use most of the time, or a software product that you use most of the time. You can write a brief user guide targeting a new user of that product without prior experience. So you write a user guide on how to use that product, basically. So that's like the take-home assignment. So this will actually help you master, because without practice, you're not mastering anything. So like that's why I wrote this down for you guys to like try out. So yeah, we need to teach us how to write API documentation in the long run. Yeah, not in this mentorship series, anyways, because that's like something that would probably require one on one and time. It will be time intensive. So I plan to, I don't know, it depends on my schedule. I don't know how busy I'm going to get, to be honest. So like based on my schedule, I might decide to like do like a paid mentorship class that I can have one-on-one mentorship class with people that are interested in that kind of stuff, like actually hands-on related stuff. So maybe not now, anyways, but not now. I'm very busy now. So maybe after this mentorship series, then I'll let you know. I'll probably share it on my Twitter or LinkedIn or Discord. Since there's a Discord platform now, I could share it there when so you can just, or my newsletter. You just shall get to know when I start it. So yeah. So are there any questions from this session? Um okay. Let me give you like 5 minutes for you to like think of any questions that you have for me before we go. It's already 5:38. Wow, I've been speaking for so long. um, okay. Okay. Um, Let me give some more time for more questions before I take them on. All right. So how was the class? Were you guys able to learn anything so far? Are you able to learn anything new? So let me know if you're able to learn anything new in comment section. Okay, nice, nice, nice. I have anybody else? Okay, are there any other questions? In like 2 minutes, then I'll just go through the ones that are here. Yeah, going. Gone. All right. So let me just scroll up to see any new questions. Um Maybe someone's asking, can we use Strappy? Okay. You can use Strappy for documentation, but it's not like the primary purpose. It's not like its primary purpose. It's actually a CMS, a headless CMS. So usually used for managing content such as like blog posts, articles, and all that, or an information of information about products. But if you want to use it, if you want to use Strappy for documentation, which I don't recommend, it require you having to customize and configure it to fit your specific needs. But I don't know if that's what you're asking. Are you asking if you can use Strappy for as a CMS or a documentation tool? Okay, for the submission of the assignments, thank you, good thing that you asked. Thank you. Submit it on Discord, please. Just paste the link to the document. Whatever document you're using to write, you just paste the link to the document on Discord, and I'll check it out when I have time. Please also give me commenting access. If you're using Google Docs preferably, please you can give me commenting access so that I can drop comments for you on the document when you're done with the assignment. Yeah. Um. Yeah, this video is recorded, so you can always watch it later on. So, are there any other questions for me? Okay, for the Discord link, let me share it with you. Let me share the Discord link with you. Oh, okay. For the Discord link, let me find the invite link. Share invite, copy link, copy link. Okay. Yeah, so I shared the link to Discord channel. Samuel Benson, please you can find the link. Yeah, I just dropped it now, so can you see the link? I just dropped it. So okay, Samuel, can you see the link before I end the live? I want to show you. I want to be sure you got the link. Hi Samuel, please can you let me know if you've seen the link to the Discord channel? Okay, cool. All right, so thank you guys. Pretty stressed out already though. But I'll communicate the next class your newsletter. So it's a bi-weekly mentorship class. So it's going to be like in the next 2 weeks, I guess. So you can communicate with me on the Discord channel. You can drop any questions you have on Discord channel. You can share even your past works, like your technical writing. Maybe you're already writing articles. You could share it for review on the Discord channel as well. And you guys can do like peer review with each other, just communicate and learn from each other as well. So yeah, so it was nice doing this. See you guys later. Bye. 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 Bye everyone. Okay.